So a split call on behalf of the Green Party. The first 5 minutes is Eugenie Sage.
Tamanga to whare tēnā koe. Thank you, Mr Speaker. In the Green Party, we'd rather the $26 million that's being spent on this flag referendum was spent on doing something about protecting our climate. I had the privilege yesterday of listening to a world leader, the President of Kiribati, Anote Ton, talking about climate change. He called it the greatest moral challenge facing humanity. He said, we simply want the ability to live on our islands. That is a basic human right, to have a home and to be able to live in your homeland. Yet from the Prime Minister's statement, National seems totally intent on ignoring what's happening with our oceans, the impacts of rising sea levels on our Pacific neighbours and the urgent need to tackle climate change. Instead, it's distracted with the flag referendum, as we heard from the previous speaker. Mr Speaker, our oceans, as well as producing half the oxygen we breathe, absorbing around 30% of the carbon dioxide we produce, also absorb 93% of the heat we're producing from global warming. And with these warming oceans, we get sea level rise, up to a metre or more by 2100. And warming oceans, of course, contribute to more intense weather events, cyclones where they didn't occur previously, more extensive and severe droughts. And in the Pacific, we're seeing that combination of sea level rise and more extreme weather events costing those islands the ability to have a homeland. Rising sea levels will inundate some of our Pacific neighbours. Here in New Zealand, we can move uphill, we can move inland. On coral atolls like Kiribati, there is no uphill or inland to move. Yet in the Prime Minister's statement, we saw a total failure to recognise that we need to reduce our emissions and that we need to adapt to the realities of an unstable climate. That was missing from the government's top 4 priorities. New Zealand can't have a competitive and a productive economy that the Prime Minister claims to want without making a shift to a low-carbon economy, without shifting to our policies, changing the structure of our economy to one that protects our climate. And we need to make those shifts if we are going to protect the right of our Pacific neighbours to live in their homelands. What the government is doing, what the Prime Minister's statement has set out, is business as usual. High carbon pollution, encouraging more fossil fuel extraction, more subsidies to oil drillers and miners, when we know that burning even 2/3 of global fossil fuel reserves will be catastrophic for the climate. Business as usual for National means ruling out agriculture being even discussed in the current review of the emissions trading scheme. Business as usual means more handouts for irrigation and intensive agriculture, despite nearly half of our emissions coming from agriculture. And we heard it again today with the Finance Minister's comments. National seems to believe that there's going to be some technological silver bullet that can reduce our agricultural emissions. It's sending completely the wrong message to farmers. It's signalling that climate change doesn't matter by failing to set a date when agriculture will be in the ETS. It's sending the wrong message about our economy. It's meaning that we continue with business as usual with the old carbon-intensive economy rather than shifting investment to clean, low-carbon sectors like IT, like renewables. And it's an utterly irresponsible choice for our Pacific neighbours and for New Zealand because it's putting the risks to Kiwis in future and now. It's not dealing with current challenges. The target in the Paris Agreement was very ambitious, keeping global temperatures to within 1.2 degrees. Prime Minister, you signed up to that target, and yet this government totally lacks the policies to deliver on that. And yesterday, a leading climate scientist, Tim Nash, said that the window to stay within a 2 degrees rise in global temperatures is the next 10 years. In the Green Party, we believe action is urgent. We want to stay within that limit. That means major structural change in the economy. It means investing in public transport, not spending billions of dollars on new motorways, which will make our emissions worse. Last December, we had the second biennial report on our emissions. That showed that New Zealand's emissions were set to increase by 96% above 1990 levels by 2030. That is this government's plan. It's not about being responsible. It's not about delivering a safer or a brighter future to New Zealand. It is about burdening us with a catastrophic climate change.